Marissa Yung Lee is an artist who deals in portraits and fine art with the occasional pop-up art for fun. Now, that's pop art for fun, but not so much fun are the plans for her exhibition opening reception, but she joins us now and we are happy to have her. Hello, Marissa, how are you?
I'm fine, TK. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Now, I want you to describe your path to being an artist, please. Is it just that you're full-fledged, full-on artist? This is all you do it in addition to something else? Describe that for me.
No, I'm a full-time artist. This is something that I've danced around for a lot of my life, but I think it's the right path for me. And now that I've decided to do it full-time, everything just seems to kind of, doors have been opened, and I feel like I'm on the right path. It's the right decision for me.
But what are some of the steps that you took to making that decision, taking those steps? Because yes, other people would have danced around and they're still dancing. How is it that you're saying, okay, well, this is what I am going to do?
I think it's that I want to be at a certain level, and if I'm not painting every day, I'm never going to get to that level. And so if I'm painting every day, it makes sense that this should be the thing that, is my career.
All right, now, we're actually looking and we're seeing some of your art behind you. What are some of the media that you work in?
I work primarily in oils, and I started in watercolor, but right now oil is my passion. I can work with acrylic, but it dries much too quickly for me, and I like to take my time. And I also like the vibrancy that oils bring with the color. So for me right now, oil is where I'm at. And if I need to take a break from oil and just relax and have fun, then I'll do watercolor, just because watercolor is, it flows and it's relaxing and it drips and you can let go and just let the creativity flow. Whereas with oil, it's like puzzle solving. It's very challenging. And so, yeah.
And you need to explain that for me.
I can work with charcoal as well.
Okay. Now you need to explain that for me a little more, right? Because you're saying you spoke about oils, watercolor, and acrylic. Would they go on the same, would you have them on the same canvas? So like, would you prefer using wood or linen, or what do you paint on while using those media, and why?
So canvases most of them are primarily primed, which means they would have had either gesso or white acrylic paint on it. And then you can add oil or acrylic paint on top of that. I like to work with a variety of canvases. So yes, I do work with prime canvases, but lately I've found that I love working on raw linen. I like working on wood panels. And I'm looking at maybe trying to work on copper panels as well. I haven't started that yet, but I like the texture and the color of the raw linen, or the wood, the grains of the wood, the way it shows in the background. I just find that very beautiful.
Now, you speak about a progression from watercolors to oil and still looking at acrylic kind of cocky eye. But how long have you been painting?
I have been painting for about 18 years, maybe. I've been painting with oil for about 7 or 8 years. Before that, watercolor for about 10.
Now, is this something that started in school, or was it a hobby, or how did you get involved?
It was mostly a hobby. It was something that, sometimes you have a knack for something, and that's what people call a talent. And I did it for fun. But after a while, I kind of started coming across oil painting, works in oil painting that I found to be very beautiful. And that is when I kind of stopped and said, wow, I need to step it up. This is a level that I want to be at. And the watercolor by itself isn't really cutting it for me. I want it to be challenged.
No, I'm not sure if I'm getting it correctly, but is it that you're self-taught, or have you had teachers or people giving you tips along the way?
So I'm mostly self-taught, but I have supplemented my learning with some international workshops. I did 2 workshops in the US with Scott Burdick and Susan Lyon, and I did 1 workshop in India last year with Pramod Kurlika and Suchitra Bhosle. And so I wish I had done art academically, I wish I had gone to university to do fine art. Now that I know how much technique and skill you need to do it, it's one of my greatest regrets that I didn't do that. So I try to supplement the work with the workshops, and it does help me a lot. Usually, the workshops are 3 to 5 days, and you learn more concepts than techniques. And then you come home and you try to practice what you learn, try to apply it in your own paintings, and
So is it that family were not supportive? No, you say you wish you had done it and in a school and an academic setting. So that makes me wonder about the kind of conversations that you would have had with family members when you're making this decision to take that plunge into being a full-fledged artist.
by the time I decided to be a full-fledged artist, I was already an adult. So my parents, they can't tell me no at this point, but um, when I did tell them, they were pretty supportive. Most of them, my aunt and uncle, especially in Europe, they were like, we kind of always knew this was where you were headed.
I know. Once again, I speak to the painting that we see behind you, and that is with regard to jab jab or rope jab. What is your process?
Yeah.
How do you decide, okay, well, this is my next project?
This particular painting, or generally?
And we speak about that particular painting as well as your general process.
So this is a painting that I actually took a photo of these guys at Canbule morning. It was maybe two years ago, maybe 3. They were kind of waiting in the early morning light, waiting to kind of come on stage because the Blue Devils and I think the Mokos were already on the streets, and they were just standing there waiting. And the way the light shone on them and the costumes, and I had never seen jabs before that morning. And I remember looking at them and thinking, what are they? They look heroic. They look kind of scary at the same time, fearsome. And I needed to know what they were. And so I took some pictures of them and I made it my business to go and find out what is a jab. What do they do? I've since gotten to know these guys and they're amazing. And so, yeah, I took the picture. I came home. I took months to actually work on this one to try to get all the proportion right, all the detail on the costume. This was the first painting I did of jabs, and it was very, very intimidating. I think I put it off for months. I would do a little bit and then I'd be afraid of ruining it. But having gone through the process, and I'm glad I took so long and I took my time because I've painted 2 other jab paintings since, and it's flowed a lot easier.
Do you find it a bit daunting to actually say, okay, well, I'm going to do something to a likeness as opposed to pulling something out of your head? Because looking at that single shot of the male, I can recognize Ronald Alfred.
Yeah.
How is that process?
So I'm glad that you asked because that is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And when people talk about like a passion project, this is my passion project. I like traditional carnival, and I want to represent the people who keep traditional carnival alive. Like, in a way, it's taken on a form of anthropology where I'm kind of documenting in my own way who these people are. I think everybody in Trinidad should know the name Ronald Alfred. Everybody should know that. So in my way, I want to shine a light on them. I want to paint them in a way that people can recognize them, can see their face, can see their identity, can see them dressed in character while they perform, and to know who are these people who are keeping these traditions alive. That is so important to me.
And we continue this conversation with you after this break. We are speaking with Marissa Yung Lee, an artist. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're speaking with Marissa Yung Lee, an artist. And when we broke, we were talking about keeping the images, the knowledge of traditional mass alive. Now, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was your source of inspiration. Because when I look at many of your paintings and those that you shared with me, Marissa, somebody who comes to mind is Maria Nunes. And she does something along similar lines with photography. Where do you draw inspiration from, and do you see any parallels in the work that both of you ladies are doing?
It's not just Maria. There's Chad Luloy, there's Lisa Fernandez, there's Starita Ramprasad. All of them, they take amazing photos. Jason Ordine, he's my favorite, They take these amazing photos of carnival performers every year. And yeah, of course, that's a big influence, but I'm not the best photographer. In fact, most of my photos come out blurry. But what I can do is paint. And so this is my way of contributing to, yeah, preserving the culture. And yeah, absolutely, the photographers have done a great deal to influence me.
And what do you think that has done for, one, you as an individual, as well as your circles, people who would see your work? Because you said before you saw those jabs, those rope jabs that morning,
Mhm,
you didn't know who they were, you didn't know what they were representing. So do you
yeah,
think that you're taking people along with you on a journey of discovery?
I hope so. I think I'm frankly embarrassed that I took so long to find out about Blue Devils and Jabs and Mokos. It's embarrassing as a Trinidadian that I didn't really seek this interest when I was a child or as a teenager. That I didn't really know any kind of backstory. But I know that the first time I saw it face to face, which was at Camberley Morning, it left such an indelible mark that I knew that there was no way that this could not be a part of my life. And so, yeah, absolutely. I hope that people take it seriously. I hope that when the whole pandemic is over, people will seek it out. You can actually learn to crack a whip. You can get in touch with the Alfreds. You can learn to blow fire. You can get in touch with Steffi and Cardell from Next Level Devils and Underworld Creepers. You can get in touch with the Mokos, Mokos to Moko, 1000 Mokos. You can do all of that. You can learn to walk on stilts and stuff. If you have friends visiting from away and they want a unique experience, you don't just have to take them to the beach or a party. These are things that foreigners would love to experience, and these are things that I think any Trinidadian should do at least once in their life. So absolutely, and I'm very hopeful that people will take an interest in it.
And I really appreciate the way that you're saying, okay, well, from not knowing to be able to calling some of these people by first name basis. But one of the
Yeah.
reasons that I actually used the name Maria Nunes is because I want
Mm-hmm.
you to give us a story, thank you. Now, you used one of her photographs as a reference. And in a post you had about that piece of work that you did, you spoke of it. The name of the piece is Acid, and you say it's 12 by 12, oil and tears on primed linen.
Yes.
Take us through that story, please.
So the reason why I used Maria's photo is that was what was provided to me by the Bow Academy, and it's an absolutely gorgeous photo. It the I love backlighting. Anybody who knows me knows that I love backlighting. So the photo was practically tailor-made for me. Um, it was a black and white photo, and so I had to produce some color out of it. But that in and out of itself was a good experience. Maria, I believe I haven't really met Maria personally, but from what I understand, she was close to Acid, to David. Um, I knew David from the Bow Academy. We hadn't gotten close, but I knew him from afar. I respected him. I'd spoken to him a few times, and actually, before he passed, he had spoken on many occasions where I'd asked him to do his portrait, and I put it off for so long because in my mind I wanted to paint David in this way where he would hold the stick up and he would look just heroic, and in my mind I had this grand image of how I wanted to paint him, and I didn't. I put it off because I just kept feeling like my skill wasn't quite there. And I remember the week before he passed, I I told myself like I think I'm ready. I think the next time I see him, I'm gonna ask him. Let's take the photos, and then the tragedy happened. You know, and that was one of the most devastating things. Like even though I didn't know him to say like we were close, it was such a regret that you put off something because you're scared, and then the opportunity passes. Um, and so, but anyway, his 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 students, Randall Benjamin and Jamie Filbert, who also run the Bow Academy, they invited me to do his portrait at his memorial, and it was like being given a second chance. So I painted it live at his memorial. It was pretty much a private affair. So I don't know how much I can get into that part of it, but
No, but
I will say that it was a very emotionally moving experience. Just seeing how many people who knew him, the way they spoke about him, and then there was people who, like me, had only like chatted with him a few times, and they were all in tears. I was in tears. I was painting and was crying. So,
But thank you so much for sharing what you did, and we're speaking
I
about...
hope that some of them came through in the painting.
Definitely. And we're speaking about King David, Matthew Boone, Acid, champion, stick fighter, exponent of the art of Kalinda. You may know him from the lyric video on the Busted video from Marshall and Bunji Garland. He's also in the official video. And you're speaking of second chances. This is not necessarily a second chance, but we can describe it as a pivot because we'll ask about your exhibition. When was it supposed to be, and what is the current status of it?
The exhibition was originally supposed to be, I think, September, and then they moved it to October. But then COVID happened, and then everything was kind of up in the air where we didn't know what was going to happen. But Horizons has graciously decided to push forward. We can't have an opening night, but what they're doing is having a Facebook Live, like a virtual opening. I will be there in case anybody has questions. It was supposed to be a joint exhibition, but I think now it's expanded to 4 people. It's going to be Carlene Francois, Maria Diaz, and Jaden Matthews, as well as myself.
Right,
and that's going to be on the 6th of October. Sorry.
All right, so we're looking out for that. And do you paint what you want to? Say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to paint. Or do you take commissions? What is your workflow like?
I do take commissions, but right now I'm focusing more on the exhibition, and I have some commissions that I've already taken on that I need to simultaneously balance with my exhibition work.
And how does someone contact you to do that?
Sorry?
How does someone contact you? How do people follow you to see where you're at, what your art is looking like, how they can possibly avail you of your services?
Primarily on Facebook and Instagram. I respond to all my messages there almost immediately. You can check me out, Marissa Yung Lee, on Instagram and Facebook. Anything you post there, I'll see and I'll respond. If you're interested, no need to be shy about it. We can always work something out.
Now, with regard to aspirations, now going back to Acid, now you're saying that you wanted to get a little better before you undertook that painting of him. Has that sped up other things on your timeline? What is next on your horizon? What are you looking forward to?
For me, it's a matter of growing. Just making sure that I'm always learning something new. Every painting, even though it might look like I'm painting the same thing over and over, which is, people, every painting has a new challenge, and it's something that I guess that's where the joy in it lies for me, is the journey of learning and not so much the end result. I don't know what I'll do if I get to the point where I'm like, I don't have anything else to learn. That terrifies me. I don't want to ever get to that point. So what's next on the horizon is the exhibition at Horizons, which is on the 6th. After that, I have a couple of contracts to knock out. And then I want to get back to working on my carnival pieces, which I think it's looking like that's going to be my life's work.
All right, so we thank you for sharing some of that process and journey with us, Marissa Yung Lee. And on behalf of everyone in the newsroom, we want to thank you for tuning in this evening. I'm DK Roster. Have a good night.